I want to talk. Well, I thought maybe this week we talked about, well, one of the things that kind of was bubbling up last week that's now moved over to this week, and this is the matter of Konami, Metal Gear Solid 4, and the rumors, well, the fairly confirmed rumors that there was stuff inside of an NDA that reviewers had to sign that precluded them from talking about aspects of the game that many people felt that they should have been allowed to talk about. And what it appears to be is a matter of the length of the cutscenes and an installation of the game onto the hard drive. And I've noticed out there on some message boards and stuff like that, a lot of people seem to be like, what gives? What's the biggie? You know, why should they be complaining that they can't give this away? Because they give something away in the game. Obviously, that's obviously not giving anything away in the game. But I thought I would go ahead and clarify, because sometimes when you're in the press, you do enough navel gazing that you forget that not everyone out there is in the press, and, you know, there might be a mystery. So this is what it pretty much comes down to. When we get these NDAs, typically, almost always, it's to prevent us from revealing aspects of the game before a certain date, and with requests for us not to reveal certain story elements to the game that usually occur late in the game. That makes complete sense. You don't want to go ruin people's fun. And I know that with movies and stuff like that, it's even more of a gentleman's agreement, but in the wonderful old internet age, I don't believe gentleman's agreement can even be spelled. Anyhow, that makes complete sense. They're trying to protect, obviously, you know, the consumer from not having their experience ruined, and the fact is they don't want stuff coming out ahead of when they actually planned, and that's why they're giving us the game early, and so we have to be in some type of agreement with them. But the thing is, these two elements, the length of the cutscene and the installation to the hard drive, we're not giving anything away. We're not saying what's in those cutscenes, and I don't know what you're giving away by the fact that you're going to sit through an install. That's more of an issue, because that is information that the player should know about. I don't think anyone would choose not to buy a game because of the install, but it's a fair statement of fact that someone should know that they're getting into that if they're purchasing of the game. And as I've said before, with the cutscenes, there are people out there that may look at how interactive they want their game to be, and they don't want to sit around, say, watching something rather than playing it. It is fair for them to know that ahead of time to keep them informed if they're making the purchase that they want to make. And for Konami to ask reviewers not to point that out is completely unfair. I do not see much precedence for this ever having happened before. And on top of that, it makes those very things inside of the game look rather suspicious. You know what? It's a 5 gig install. If the game, say, 20 hours, okay, that's another 10, 15 minutes. That's not that much time given how big the game is. But clearly you get the impression that someone's not very comfortable with this aspect of the game. And that's doubly so with the cutscenes. For some reason, we shouldn't mention the length of the cutscenes. That almost gives the impression that, hey, does this mean that Konami's not very confident that those cutscenes are what should be in the game at that particular length? It shows a lack of confidence right there in the game. And it makes it out like it's something that they should be ashamed of. And that's not good. They've cast more suspicion on themselves by asking us not to talk about it than they would have if they just let us talk about it in the first place, because a lot of people probably even brought it up in the first place. So I got to say that this is really just kind of a mess, and I hope this can give you some enlightenment as to why we're all up in arms about these NDAs. But it is important. We are trying to keep you informed, and we're trying to be transparent so we can let you know what's in these games, so that we're not in some kind of collusion there with the other game companies. And when stuff like this happens, it does compromise that. It compromises your trust in us. It compromises our ability to be fair journalists. And it can't happen even if in that very instance it isn't that odious. So that's all I have to say. Was that just rambling?